Ba-da-ba, bop. The end.
Oh my God. Oh, that was so funny. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, security guards, take him out. Get him out of here.
What?
Get the orthodontist out of here.
No, why?
Take him out of this audience. Kill him.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Blerd It Out. One Piece chapter 1126 dropped. We are again not having a break, so we're getting chapter after chapter right now. I think we were supposed to get 3 chapters before break, so after 1127 we might see a break, but we'll see. We're also going to do a quick seasonal update when we get to the end here. Caught up to a lot of things, started watching a couple new things, so we'll talk about that a little bit. But first, a word from our sponsors. Thank you for tuning in to Blerd It Out. Whether you're listening from YouTube on my channels like Darren King Kumo or Blerd It Out Podcast, or one of the many podcast sites like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more, I appreciate your support. If you want to listen to older episodes of that podcast, head on over to Patreon. If you join as a free member, you can watch all the old episodes from the old seasons for free. Plus, there'll be other content that didn't quite make it to an episode or on a YouTube video that you can check out there as well. Your support means the world.
Talking all things, we chillin' like a kid G. Better activate your Byakugan so you can see me. Coming at you left, right, up, down, sideways. Reactions, reviews, maybe even let's plays. On this droid boy, trying to make you laugh, make you smile. We about to set sail, so sit back and stay a while. It's Blerd It Out. Blerd It Out.
And know that if you have not caught up to the latest chapters or episodes, there will be spoilers ahead.
Spoilers.
Okay, chapter 1126 was wild. Honestly, it had me laughing a lot more than I thought I should have. And going back, rereading it, just makes me laugh more. Like, it's honestly hilarious, but also insane. But to start off, we have the cover story. We still have Yamato going on the pilgrimage, and Yamato is inspecting missing girls being stolen in Curry. And if you know from the previous cover story, Yamato basically saved someone from getting captured. So this looks like it's going to be the subplot of the cover story that leads into something that's gonna happen in the real story. What usually happens is that, you know, it's a little bit of like kind of fillerish information that we go through. Like we have to start the cover story with some filler stuff that won't really be important, and then it kind of bleeds into the actual story. And I mean, even in this chapter, we get some information that pretty much bled from a cover story. So that's going to be good to see. I'm wondering where this is going to wrap up at, because it probably won't be as long as Capone's. I know some people are getting tired of seeing Yamato on the cover. I don't mind it. I know that these cover stories are more or less a vehicle to fill in small gaps of story if Oda wants, or they could just be like fun little mini stories. It really just depends on how he's feeling. I think this is going to spill into the main story, but it just might take some time. Now the chapter starts and we're still partying, still having a good time. Oishi and Koimo are talking about how they ended up reuniting with Dory and Brogy. Basically, Dory and Brogy needed to get new weapons because if you remember way back when they used Okaku Sovereignty, or is it Ikaku Sovereignty? I think it's Ikaku Sovereignty. One of the sovereignties. They ended up destroying their weapons because they had been battling for 100 years and the weapons are worn down. So they were saying they had to go back to get new weapons, basically. And this is how everyone got reunited. And Nami asked them that, and she's like, wait, you guys are still fighting after all that? And they say, yeah. And she's just like, okay, I'm done talking to you. It's just such a Nami response. It's because it's very much like the robot thing where it's a very like, I guess I would say masculine, or like, it's manly for these two dudes to be fighting for this long, and I'm just like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? And even Usopp starts getting on her, talking about how she didn't learn anything in Little Garden. And now it's just over there drinking. And speaking of drinking, everyone's got a drink, and apparently this drink gets you turned. Because one of the giants calls it the Green Fairy, or Absentine. And it says there's a chance it'll make you hallucinate. And when I think about it, it's like, okay, so this is probably a drink for the giants, meaning they drink it in large quantities. if they drink it in large quantities and there's a chance they'll make you hallucinate, what do you think's gonna happen to these average people drinking it? Like, this stuff has to be way too strong. And I think that's how we get to the part where we are at the end of the chapter, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. The gang keeps partying, you know, we're having fun, everybody's smiling, having a good time, and we get a few panels of Bonnie and Kuma. Now, Kuma still isn't like talking or really moving. He's still in the same spot he was basically when they put him on the ship, but he's smiling, and he's got Bonnie in his arms, and I think that's all we really need. I don't think Kuma's coming back, but this was one of the things I was talking about I wanted to see was that basically we get like a last smile out of Kuma. And Bonnie mentions that they finally get to see the horizon together. And on first read, I didn't even remember that this was a conversation that they had beforehand. So it was kind of lost on me. I was like, okay, it's a cute moment. Why are they talking about the horizon? And then I went back and was like, oh, that's right. Kuma once said that, you know, eventually we'll see the horizon together. And this is Bonnie saying, like, we finally did it. It's super sweet, but it's also really sad because it's like Kuma kind of said that when he was of his right mind. And it's like, hey, we made it here now, but it's almost like she's, I don't want to say talking to a corpse. She's not with the same Kuma that, you know, kind of made that promise or made that statement. So it's sweet. It's also really sad, but, you know, I think that's kind of the trend of this relationship right now until it reaches its endpoint. And then we go into a pseudo flashback. And this is what I was talking about with the cover stories, is that Shanks approached Barto about burning his flag. And now that was part of the cover story we saw a while back. And we were wondering if there would be any retaliation. And when Shanks pulled up in Wano for a little bit, he actually mentioned that he wanted to go see Barto for this exact reason. So it's very interesting to see it finally play out. You know, it's not an off-screen thing, and it's actually mentioned like in the story as a major incident. So Shanks is talking to Barto, and he's like, you came up to my territory, you burned down my flag, basically you disrespected my name. And that's the idea of the flags, is that once you post a flag, this territory is yours. And if someone spits on that, you gotta step up to him. The thing about Whitebeard was that you wouldn't dare spit on Whitebeard's flag. That was just unheard of. And I think for Shanks, it's pretty much the same deal. The only reason Barto did it, I think, was because of his love for Luffy. I don't know how far that would extend. Like, I don't know if he would go to Wano and be like, yeah, this is Luffy's land. Or if he would go to Fishman Island. Like, I don't know who exactly he would feel like challenging. I think of all people, it makes the most sense to deal with Shanks, because in a matter of hierarchy, I would put him at the lowest or the lower end of the Emperor tier. But I think it was mostly just his love for Luffy that kind of got in his head. Because he even said, you know, you weren't really thinking it was a foolish mistake. Like, it was just for Luffy. And one of Shanks' crew, I forget his name, but I think he has been named. His design is familiar. He pulls up and he gives Barto a bottle. He says it's a poison. Basically, Barto has to get Luffy to drink this poison in a month, which is insane. And I don't know if they're doing this specifically because they know Barto loves Luffy, or if this is some secretive side plot, because that would be interesting, right? If Shanks was like pulling up on rookies and being like, okay, you have a choice. You die or you poison Luffy. I would love to see a deeper explanation of that. But in this case, I think it might just be because they know how much Barto loves Luffy. And of course, Barto says, nah, I'm not doing that. And he drinks the poison himself. Because he's like, you know what? I'll take the hit. And it makes sense, because you would think if he doesn't comply, they're probably going to kill him. So he's like, I'll just do it right now. Kill two birds with one stone. Might as well. So he drinks it, shouts his last goodbyes, and he shouts the last messages where basically he's like, I did this on my own. I messed up. This has nothing to do with Luffy. So I'm not even going to bother him with it. Which I think makes a lot of sense, because it's like, yeah, you're repping Luffy's name and everything. You're part of the alliance. But it's Luffy clearly stated that he didn't really want the alliance. And if people are just out acting in his name, that goes against what he wants. He's okay with helping people. He's okay with like, all right, you guys are friends. If you need help, I'll roll up. But you can't go around using his name like that, especially when he hasn't officially, made the alliance. He also says that he's fine ending up as another scrub who got killed by an emperor. And this feels like shots to Kid. Just because it's a rookie, it's Shanks, and it's a very similar scenario to what just happened. And I don't, Shanks at this point is just like, why are all these rookies trying me? Like, do they not realize who I am? And I think one of the things that he says that kind of gets, it hits home for Shanks is that he wanted to see Luffy become Pirate King. Because they show a panel of Shanks looking at Barto while he's saying that. And to be honest, Shanks has a very interesting look on his face. But I think that's the line where it's like, okay, this is Luffy's ride or die. It turns out the poison was basically a dud, didn't do anything. And they let Barto and his crew go. Just like that. So they dip immediately because they ain't trying to get killed. And Barto even mentions that he was expecting more from the Emperor. He thought they'd be more ruthless. And that he was maybe a little soft on them. Cut back to Shanks and Beckman. They're laughing because they like the dedication to Luffy. And so, they're smiling back and forth. And then out of nowhere, Yasop comes up. And he asks Shanks to move out of the way. Because he still has to teach Barto a lesson. And then they blow up the ship. And I say they, I mean Yasop, I guess. Yasop apparently shoots this ship. And it explodes. And we even get the narration that we got for like Kid in the Law, where it's like, this crew was defeated, the ship was sunk. It says the Barto Club pirate ship was sunk. It is unknown if there are any survivors. Now that last box is weird. Solely because like in examples of a Kid and Law, I don't think they mention survivors. Whether we see it or not, I don't know if they talk about, it's unknown if anybody survived. I'd have to go back and look. Because with Law's case, we know that Law and Beppo survived. We know that they got away. With Kid's case, it seemed like everyone drowned at sea. In Barto's case, it looks like the same as Kid, where basically everyone's just going to drown at sea. Now, there's so many things about this that are... The first thing I'll talk about is how funny it is, because Shanks pulled up to Green Bull and told him not to pluck the sprouts, basically. Don't mess with the young rookies while they're still trying to grow. And the person who has been the most detrimental to the rookies, I would argue, was Shanks, considering he sank Kid's and Barto's crews entirely. Like, it wasn't just like they got beat up, it wasn't just like they lost a limb. And even Kid lost a limb beforehand and then came back, and then Shanks just put him down. Like, he has been the most damaging to the rookies of, I think, just about anybody we've seen. But it's also really interesting to see the ruthlessness, because we want this. This is what we want from an emperor, right? We want them to be ruthless. We wanted Kaido to take names. We wanted Kaido to put people down. We wanted Big Mom to take names and put people down. This is what we want to see. What I'll say about this is it's very odd that we don't get any shots back to like the Red Force after Barto's ship blows up. And I say that because there's a slight possibility that something else could have happened that blew up Barto's ship. Because Shanks has a shocked kind of emote above his head when Yasop walks up, as if he wasn't expecting it. But in that same vein, if Shanks doesn't want Yasop to shoot that ship, it's not getting shot. I can tell you that it's not getting shot. Shanks will put the hockey brakes on him fast, because he has future sight. So I think there's some mystery to this, but I do like the idea that Shanks' crew just wiped him. I'm very down with that idea. I think this is going to create some interesting tension for Luffy and Shanks, which is kind of what we want. The meeting between Shanks and Luffy is becoming less and less wholesome, I think, with time. It seems like the implications of how they're going to meet are going to be a bit heavier than, mentor and mentee. It feels like there's going to be some type of animosity. And I don't mean that like Luffy's going to hate Shanks for this. I think based on how Luffy dealt with like Ace and Sabo, Luffy understands that everyone kind of has their own journey. So he's not going to be like, how dare you beat Barto? He's probably going to be like, huh, well, I mean, that was their journey. But I could see like maybe other members of the crew, or I could see at the very least Luffy just being like, was it necessary? But that's at the most. Because I mean, in general, Luffy doesn't care about that kind of stuff. You got wiped, then you got wiped. That's just, that was the end of your journey. We move on. Cut to Hachinosu. Blackbeard has returned and he's chewing out Pizarro for basically letting Kobe go. Kobe and Moria, actually. And it's interesting because he's got a grip on Pizarro by like the Fu Manchu, but it's while Pizarro is assimilated into the island. Now, the way I understood Blackbeard's powers was that if he touches you with his hand, it negates it. It's almost like touching sea stone. So it's a weird mix here because I think Pizarro is in pain from being grabbed by Blackbeard, but his dough fruit isn't being canceled. So it's like, is this part of the dough fruit? Is this hockey? Is this a mix? Is it neither? What's going on here? But I think the situation is more or less being played for humor than it is for the actuality of, you know, how that power system should work. He's also got a gun, like he's gonna shoot him, which I feel like is really stupid considering who he is, where it's like, you're gonna shoot a rock. That's the punishment. I think you're doing more damage to him by grabbing his mustache than you will by shooting him. But I mean, you know, it is what it is. And it's funny because San Juan Wolf is trying to put the town back together after Garp punched it to oblivion. He's just like holding up pieces of town. He's like, oh, where does this go? Where does this go? All the while they're arguing in the background. But the little fodder minions that are on the ground level they're hyped up. You know, they see this as an absolute win because they know they got Garp. And they know Blackbeard's back, they know he got Pudding. Basically, they see it as all dubs. They out there talking about Blackbeard is the one who's going to take the One Piece, this, that, and the other. And so Blackbeard comes down a little bit and he brings in Kuzan. And he's like, Kuzan, what's up? Give me the rundown since y'all clearly messed up some stuff here. And Kuzan lets him know that while we lost Kobe, we got Garp. And I mean, immediately, Teacher's like, all right, we good. We Gucci. Because now we got Garp. Now we got Pudding. You know, we got the pieces we need. And this goes back to what Blackbeard was talking about earlier when he first confronted Pizarro, was that basically Kobe was one of the pieces they need to get to the One Piece. The poneglyphs basically aren't really a secret anymore. Well, from what Vegapunk said, that information is publicly known. The thing is, I think anybody who was aiming for the poneglyphs already knew about the poneglyphs, including the Navy. If the Navy wanted to get to the poneglyphs, they would have tried. I think there's more to it than that. You can't just get there. Like, they can't just get to Zou like that. They can't just go into Wano like that. There are so many different reasons they wouldn't be able to reach the poneglyphs, while as a pirate probably would, for different reasons. So I don't know why he'd be so worried about, okay, poneglyphs are public knowledge now, got to fight for it. You were already going to fight for it. Literally, the entire Yonko system is you guys fighting for the One Piece. So I'm not really sure what's new here. I guess he's new Emperor. He still don't know the plays yet. He don't know the tech. Also, we get some Garp hype because Blackbeard knows that there aren't many that can take Garp down. And we know Garp Chujo. We know he was at the top tier. But for Blackbeard to be like, yeah, there's not a lot of you that could have done that. I think that even points to Aokiji saying, like, you know, it's a team effort. I would wonder how that works in a clean fight where Garp isn't injured. I wonder how that goes. Blackbeard checks in with Lafayette, who is monitoring like the food delivery of the Navy getting food to Mary Joy. And basically he's just observing the revolutionaries and their plots, which is to keep food from getting to Mary Joy and starve out the Celestial Dragons. They're breaking the gondolas, they're stopping the shipments of food. They are making great strides in keeping food from going to Mary Joy. And Blackbeard, being the shiesty person he is, he's like, okay, opportunity has arrived. And I'm wondering what this opportunity is going to be, because I haven't really seen a lot of Blackbeard's plans deal with Celestial Dragons. So why this specifically helps him out, outside of like maybe the Navy pulling in resources to make sure food gets up here, because they have to do that at some point, right? The Celestial Dragon, the most important people in the world and the people you serve are starving. If regular envoys of food aren't making it, you have to call in an admiral. You have to, right? If you call in an admiral when like a Celestial Dragon gets hit, why would this not be the time? Why would you not have Kizaru post up over the food shipments and make sure that they don't get stopped, right? That would be the most efficient way to kind of call this. Now, obviously, we had the incident where Kizaru had to go to Egghead to take care of Straw Hat. Fujitora is in, I think, a weird spot based on how he's dealing with Akainu. I mean, they could have sent Green Bull. It just seems like they haven't allocated resources to this yet. And I'm wondering if when they allocate resources, this is when Blackbeard's going to make his move. And at some point, Katarina, Augur, and Caribou show up to Hachinosu. And it's really cool because Kizaru, because he's like assimilated with the island, he docks the ship by picking it up and like probably placing it in a more docked area. I think that's a really cool concept. But the translation for Caribou is insane. Because it's not like a One Piece dialect at all. It sounds like someone from our generation talking. That is kind of really funny. They roll in, so they about to get some news on the ancient weapons. Cut back to the Eric, which is the name of the ship. I'm sure we've been told that beforehand, but it just slipped my mind, so I've been calling it the Viking ship. But basically, everyone's waking up all groggy, confused. They passed out drunk from drinking that green fairy. And that green fairy was too lit. They turned up, passed out drunk. And basically, I think the idea is that they should have arrived on Elbaf, but because they were out drunk, something happened. They didn't make it to Elbaf. But not only that, the Sunny is missing. And the Sunny appears to have at least Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Usopp on it. Because we see Frankie here, we see Robin here, we see Brooke here. I think it has Chopper on it too. And then everyone else was on the Eric. Why they're separate like that, I'm not entirely sure. It seems like it's East Blue, or at least early half of One Piece characters. Because basically Robin, Frankie, Brooke, Jinbei, still in the ship here. We still see them, and we see them all in one reaction panel. The weird thing I see about this panel is that Lilith is just sitting like on the ground facing the wall. Like she's almost Blair Witching a little bit. And I'm wondering why that is. Like she's not reacting to anything. She's not saying anything. She's just sitting there staring at the wall. And it got me thinking, like, Lilith being a satellite for Vegapunk, is there necessarily a way where she might not get drunk? Is it possible? Or maybe it affects her differently. Is there something that the alcohol could have done to like change the way she works? I guess is my question. But we get to this random place and someone's calling to Nami, asking her to wake up. Now she pops up and everything is different. Her fit is different. She looks like she's wearing some garb from How to Train Your Dragon, which would make you think that it's Elbaf garb. You know, it looks like Viking attire, or at the very least like Beast Pirate attire, but I would say more like Viking attire. It looks like she's straight out of How to Train Your Dragon. She even has like her hair in braids, like someone did her up. The weird thing is she's in some kind of Lego house, and it's like, it's not a tiny, it's like a huge, at least a Lego house proportionate to her size. Like this is the size of a regular house compared to her. But you can see like the floor, it's clearly Legos. Like the barrel has circles on it. Like you can see like the architecture of that last panel. It all looks like something you'd find in like a Lego mansion. And that's how the chapter ends. Wakes up in a Lego mansion. Some things I'll say about the ending here is that, one, someone called to Nami, meaning she's probably not the only person in this particular part of the mansion. And I'm calling it a mansion because it just seems like it's like a mansion or a castle, and that's the easiest thing to refer to it as. But someone else is in here with her. Now, whether it's part of the crew or someone who knows who Nami is, Not sure. There's no indication of who that might be, just that they called her name. Another thing is that she has a sword on her back, which I find very interesting. Normally when Nami goes through outfit changes, whether she does it, whether it's a circumstance of the place she's at, I don't think she's ever been given a weapon. So it's interesting that she has a sword on her back, or looks to be a sword. I see a hilt and I see like a sheath. I don't know if it's a normal sword or if it's something different. It looks like there's a sword on her back. But you would think that something of this magnitude might be a devil fruit power. And I was going to say that the sword might be part of like the Lego mansion. It doesn't look like the sword itself has the same properties, because you can see everything in the mansion is very smooth and circular. The sword itself, it doesn't look the same. It doesn't have any particular geometry to it. It looks like a hilt that has like the bandage wrapped around it. The tip is a circle. It's like a round ball. It's not necessarily a flat round surface. So it's not like a geometrically synced piece of architecture. It looks just like a normal sword. So this is an interesting cliffhanger. We thought we were on our way to Elbaf, and this very well could be Elbaf, but it looks like we're taking a detour first. The crew is separated yet again. We'll see how long that goes for. And Nami once again has a 10 out of 10 fit. Drip immaculate. Yeah, awesome chapter. The entire Shanks plot, masterpiece. Loved it. The rest of it was also very good. I enjoyed the chapter a lot. I want to see where these things are going. I want to see, I really wanted to see at least one reaction from the Red Force after Barto's ship blew up. I think it's so odd that we didn't see anybody say or do anything after the explosion. That just seems like something was being hidden. That's my opinion, at least. Everything else pretty straightforward. I think in the cover story, we're going to start seeing some actual action. I think we're going to see what the meat of that cover story is going to be. And again, no break, so we straight back into it next week. Now, a bit of seasonal talk before we roll out. Of course, Big Goat Wistoria. If you want to see how I feel about that right now, check out the main channel. I'm doing reactions on that. Spoiler alert, I still love it. It's awesome. If there's an anime that I really wasn't expecting to like as much as I do, it's probably going to be Makine, the Losing Heroines one, because it slowly grows on me each episode. Whereas like I thought it was good beforehand, but now I'm pretty invested in where the story is going to go. Surprisingly enough, like Chica has become one of my favorite characters. The short red-haired one that kind of just stutters and talks very awkwardly. She became one of my favorite characters. I don't know what it is about her specifically. I think I just like the way they're handling her character, because what they were doing was they were kind of giving earlier like Lemon was getting a lot of time to shine, and I liked it, but it didn't necessarily make me more endeared to her character. But what they're doing with Chica now, same thing where they're giving her some time to shine. It makes me like her character more, because I think early on I kind of dismissed her character as kind of more of a gag, whereas she was just in the background doing silly stuff or saying silly stuff. But she kind of got more time to shine, and she became more of a serious character, more of a character with goals, ambitions, feelings, all this stuff. They fleshed her out a lot, and I really like it. I actively want to see where her story goes, whereas with like Lemon, I was just along for the ride. So yeah, fully locked into Makine. We can check that out every week like we do with Wistoria. Elusive Samurai. So I don't remember the last time I talked about Elusive Samurai. I know I mentioned starting it on the cast. I don't know how far I was when I mentioned starting it. I'm fully caught up now, which is like episode 9. And man, this show is interesting. Like, I still don't have like a nailed down like favorite character, or like, it's weird because I really enjoy the story. I enjoy the art so much. If you've seen like the last episode, the way that they animated the entire like fight, where he's running in a circle and he starts like, I don't know, it reminds me of JJK when they were talking about the frames, when the old Zenin was talking about how frames kind of like they get interpolated and all this stuff, and how he moves at certain frames a second. It reminded me of that, just because like he starts running around so fast that he turns into frames, and it's so cool. It's hard to explain. It's really cool. But I mean, because I like Tokiyuki. I think I like Fubuki and what's the two other retainers? I forget their names. I think I like them all. Like they're all really cool characters. There's just no one that I really like vibe with like that. I'm expecting it to be Genba, but he kind of like grows on me and then he annoys me a little bit. It's like a back and forth. We'll see. I think so far I'm back on the I like him. We'll see if he annoys me again. But this show is really good. I like the story. I like the animation. It's a very interesting shift between having fun and something really terrible happening. So if you haven't checked it out, take a look. Osan Adventure, still good, still just fun. The beatdowns continue. Although this last episode, Broston. So Broston is I think Broston is probably the strongest person in the series right now. And he's fighting the champion of this tournament. Because they're trying to get a belt to get an orb. It's like the entire part of the story is that they're trying to collect these demon orbs. And one of them's in this tournament. He's fighting this tournament. He's fighting the champion. Champion's going like all out. And because it's Broston, like it doesn't do anything. He gets pushed back a little bit. That's the most that this guy can do. And he's summoning like so much power. Think about Saitama versus Homeboy in their tournament. Where like this dude was mopping everybody else, but he got the Saitama, couldn't do a thing. It's basically that. But imagine at the end of that fight with Saitama actually lands a punch. That's what happened here in Osa. Like, Broston was like, hey, you went all out. I appreciate that. Now I'm gonna go all out. And Broston's not like an evil person. He's just like, all right, you used your strongest, I'll use my strongest. Dude decks this guy in the face so hard. It makes no sense why he punched him this hard. He knew he didn't need to do that. He just went OD on him. And obviously the fight ends there. So that means that we should be getting Broston versus Rick, which is what I wanted to see from like, I think I mentioned a while ago, this is what I want to see here, Broston versus Rick. I want to see how that's going to go. It should go in Broston's favor, but I want to see what kind of skills they implement. That's really all I've caught. I mean, actually, no, I've caught up to Failure Frame and I was watching Nobody Remembers Me in This World. Nothing too spectacular from those two. I'm kind of just watching them because they were on my list and I've got halfway through the series, so I'm just going to finish it up. Nothing I really want to report on that for now. But that's about it. I might add one or two more depending on how fast these other ones, because Crusade is on hiatus. If you don't know, what's the full title? Our Last Crusader: Rise of the New World. One of my personal like favorite side animes, where it's like there's nothing really spectacular about it as far as like the media or the grab. It's just one that I really enjoy. It's on hiatus. I was waiting for it's been on episode 4 for a very long time. I was waiting for it to drop a new episode. Still hasn't. Apparently they're on hiatus for production. They're trying to make sure everything's right. I don't know what the issue is there, because this is a Silverlink production, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. I need them to come back though. I missed my show. But that's going to wrap it up for seasonals. That's going to wrap it up for the podcast. As always, let me know what you guys thought down below. Like, comment, subscribe, smash that like button. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.